Might be now.
Supposed to be able to see.
I want to call the order the May 2017 meeting of the Utilities Committee. Would everyone please stand for an invocation and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. Lord, we ask that you continue to look down on the people of Ascension. Take care of those that are still out of their homes due to the flood in August. Lord, take care of our parish workers. May they continue to serve this community well. We ask you for special prayers for our folks in fire and law enforcement, and also all our armed forces and military folks. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please note that we have a couple committee members absent. Councilman Johnson's and Councilman Joseph are both at graduation ceremonies and award ceremonies for their children. We wish them all the best and luck. We have Councilman Turner is absent. We have Chairman Dawson sitting in with us. We have a quorum. We'll move on to agenda item number 5, the chlorine burn public notice. Mr. Ken Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There were some questions, I think, that came possibly a week or so ago when we started the chlorine burn on the PUA, Parish Utilities, basically in connection with the St. James water side. As this committee is aware, we did connect Parish Utility Ascension to St. James. So we're just kind of being proactive with the initiation of a chlorine burn. This is just a maintenance procedure. Usually in water systems over a period of time, you can get biomass that gathers there. And so kind of increasing that chlorine residual to a point that's identified as a burn will help reduce that biomass. There is no problem with the safety of the water. You have not exceeded the chlorine residual requirements that LGH puts out. So it's going very well. It's just proactive to make sure that we do the best we can to disinfect the system so that there would be no issues, as we move through the summer months. Because the summer months is when we have more flushing, more issues that we come up with. So just wanted to make sure the public understood that and wanted to get that out more. We contacted the public. We sent the information out. We notified the public as we were required to do by LDH requirements. But I just wanted to make sure that this committee was aware of that as well.
Sure. We'll move on to agenda item number 6, CDBG wastewater project update. Mr. Dawson.
Yes, sir. We're glad to say that CDBG grant on the Highway 22 side, the Hillaryville-Darrow project is definitely moving forward. The pre-bid would be available through March 16th, and the mandatory bid conference would be on March 16th. So they got up to that date to do it. There would be a mandatory bid conference on the 16th.
You're saying March.
I'm saying May. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
May. All right. Right. That's it, March? Okay. All right. That's what grandbabies do to you, right?
That's all right. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. All right. The good news is that we expect all bids to be in and downloaded to our system about June 6th. So we are moving forward with the project that's been probably 8 to 10 years, in the making, getting everything done. Also on that project, the 219 program, the discharge to the river, is ongoing. I think they're doing some work on the levee, getting the discharges over the levee like the design requires. That is going well also. So hopefully in a few months we will have what we stated as the first regional system with discharge to the river in Ascension Parish.
There you go. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, sir.
We'll move on to number 7, Parish Utilities of Ascension report. Mr. Dawson?
Yes, sir. Just real quickly, I just wanted to say that the water quality is still looking very well. We're doing a good job of maintaining the type of quality that we're designated to do. We've also, of course, the connection with PUA to St. James. We expect to see some decreases in our initial purchasing of costs, which means there should be some increase in revenue that we're getting since we're not purchasing the water from St. James. We had some issues at first. We don't know if they were coming back opening the valve because they thought it still should be open. So we started to get some fluctuations there, but we put locks on them and made sure that that won't happen again. We expect to see some increased flushing on the Assumption side, however. We're not controlling the chlorine residual coming from Assumption. They are. So all we can do to push chlorine residual down to the end of the line is flushing. So even though we may see a savings in what's happening on the St. James side, we're going to have to do increased flushing to make sure we push that residual to the end of our line on the Assumption side until we get to the point that we make that entire connection.
Till you get the loop going,
Till we get the loop going.
and you get to stagnate out.
Yes, yes, sir. We also met with the accountant. You know, one thing that we are working to provide to this committee is a detailed cost report. We met with our accountant on Friday to kind of finalize some numbers and get some things accurately. So hopefully we're going to get that to you pretty soon. And even if Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to be at another meeting, then I'll check with you and see what your wishes would be. But just some of the initial things, gentlemen, we're looking at potentially significant losses just through leakage through our line. Some of our initial estimations could be anywhere from 26% up as close to maybe 38% of just leakage in the system itself, just through the distribution line, which is not suitable. That's not good best practice. So, but I will have better numbers for you as we move forward. But I just want to let you know that's the kind of thing we're looking at.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 8, 42, Highway 42, sewer status. Mr. Dawson.
Yes, sir. Glad to say we had a meeting, I think it was the day of the pond jump, in fact,
Right.
okay, with DOTD and with everyone involved with the connection on Highway 42. Basically, DOTD made a statement, and I had them to look in the president's face and say that nothing with the schedule of connecting those lines will have anything to do with the letting of the 42 project. At that particular time, the number was about 60-something% complete. They have been working this week, so I expect, you know, all of the connection of the tail lines to pretty much be done, you know, in the next week or so. The overall goal was to have everything done. I think the final day of the 26th, we think that, according to the contract, they may be a week early in that. So everything is going well with the 42 project. All the electric connections are being done. The electricity to the plant is probably completed now. Electricity to the lift station is being switched over to the parish. So, you know, we'll be ready to actually start to connect homes and businesses to that and actually start to provide treatment very soon. So that's going very well.
Thank you, sir. We'll look at agenda item number 9. It's approval to proceed with RFQ process for owner's rep. Mr. Dawson.
Yes, sir. As I think all of you are aware, you know, we're looking to move forward with how do we deal with the East Bank sewering. One thing that was discussed with several councilmen and also you, Mr. Chairman, about moving forward with the owner's rep to help us evaluate, you know, the processes that need to be done. In that RFQ, we're looking at not only the engineering capabilities, but also having a financial assistance to evaluate the cost and to evaluate the financial feasibility as we move forward. So we just wanted to get approval from this body to go ahead and move forward with the implementation of that RFQ.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Bill Dawson. Do we have a second?
I'll second it in order to
We have
facilitate
a
a
second by Mr. Satterley.
discussion.
Question, Mr. Satterley.
Yes, Ken, so specifically, the owner's rep is to represent us in we get a qualified individual, our company, to do that. To do what?
A couple of things that has to be done. First is the technical feasibility of what's being proposed, okay? Now, we had some suggestions of some of the proposals that have gone forth of what could work for us. The second thing is to come up with the overall plan of what we need to do in order to complete the sewering of the East Bank. As you know, DEQ is only one way that you can move forward with discharge into the Bayou Manchac that's feasible, and that is coming up with a 5-year plan that takes into consideration moving that sewer out of the Bayou Manchac and discharging it somewhere else. So this owner's rep is going to assist us with looking at the technical feasibility of moving forward with suggestions that we made, looking at some of the other possibilities that we've gone through before, and coming up with a plan. Second thing is they're going to look at the cost, what it costs, and how we generate the type of revenue to be able to service the debt and to pay for it. So it's two components: the technical, mechanical side of it, as well as the financial side.
Okay, so this does or does not have anything to do with, a bunch of us individually met recently with Mr. Pertwee with AWT, and he's throwing in a proposal. This has nothing to do with that?
No.
No.
Okay, just wanted to be certain.
Yes.
So it has everything, though, to do with any possibilities yet to do something on East Bank Sewer.
Yes.
This individual company would be an advisor to us, saying
To us.
this might be a good route, whatever. And it might even reflect down to, I see item number 11, into the SRF loan.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
What we hope to do, Councilman Satterley, is not only look at the money that's coming from the SRF, but also look at the 219 program, look at any sources of revenue that we can apply to that particular, to a project for sewer on East Bank.
And Mr. Chairman, correct me if I'm wrong, the buck won't stop here. Mr. Dawson's motion is to recommend to the full council that we do the RFQ?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay. Then my second stands.
I just, we have our special legal counsel here, Mr. Tim Hardy. Tim, if you would mind, if you don't mind, would you come to the microphone and let this committee know what's the value of the owner's rep for us? We've been through this conversation for several years and back on the P3 and the value of the owner's rep and what.
Absolutely. Thank you, members of the committee. What's important is there should be somebody that really looks out for the best interest of Ascension Parish, because you have engineers that are going to be doing engineering work. You have financial people that are going to be doing financial work. You're going to have those people on the other side too. So in terms of the ability to evaluate what the engineers are doing, but on the side of the parish, to evaluate what the financial people are doing, but on the side of the parish, and to have legal counsel, because the other side will have legal counsel as well. So there needs to be people working strictly on behalf of the parish with the expertise, hopefully as good as the expertise on the other side, to make sure there's not a runaway train.
It's similar to a valued engineering session, is basically, but you have somebody speaking for you. And what I think one of the values of the owner's rep, whoever it may be, is that when we throw our ideas out, you, Mr. Sadler, up in your area, Mr. Dawson, your area, wherever, is that they can kind of, we can bounce that off of them and administration, whatever ideas you've got. We're talking as a committee of people
Absolutely.
that represent people, and this idea is what we want. That they tell us what's the feasibility, and Tim, as you've done in the past, is tell us what's the legal, what's
Yes,
the legal ramifications
absolutely.
of what we're doing.
Yes, sir.
And based on, we know that as we move forward and develop a plan for the East Bank, that we're looking at, there's a possibility of some of our regulations and ordinances that we have to
Absolutely.
either review, amend, or develop.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
And that makes it more feasible for us to be able to do this and take the water out the canals and put it to the Mississippi River, which is
sir.
the focus of our mission anyway.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Mr. Dawson.
So can I get a clarification? Thanks, Tim. Sure.
Thank you, Tim.
The owner's rep, I mean, are we talking about here a consultant engineering firm, or are we talking about an individual?
Consulting firm, that's what we're going. We're going out for an RFQ for a firm to come in and provide this service for us,
Okay.
to be a firm.
And Councilman Satterley asked a question about AWT, but is this correct that part of the responsibilities or part of the description here for this owner's rep would be to evaluate a proposal from anyone, including AWT? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay.
you're absolutely right. And you could have a proposal coming from Utilities, Inc. Utilities, Inc. is in the area. So
Okay.
we're going to review any proposal that's come in from any wastewater provider, in the area that could assist in having a comprehensive East Bank sewer system.
So, and help me with who's gonna develop the plan that we need to have to obtain the SRF funding?
We're going to talk about that in a second.
Okay. Oh, I'm jumping ahead.
Okay, right.
Okay, thank you.
Right, okay.
So,
Yes, sir, Mr.
yeah,
Sadler.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ken. And Thank you, Tim. You left before I could do that. So on the heels of this RFQ, request for qualifications for the owner's rep per se, we will be sending out an RFP, request for proposal, for East Bank sewer proposals, in which case you indicated Utility Inc., AWT, and clarifying what Councilman Dawson's question was, or whoever could be sending an RFP.
Well, I mean, the RFP, that's something that's way ahead. Once there is a big design that's done by what our owner's rep is going to represent. I think that what Councilman Dawson was referring to, there may be suggestions and proposals that may be submitted by some companies that are already in the business. That this owner's rep is going to help us evaluate all that, evaluate how it comes together, how it works, both from a technical standpoint as well as a financial standpoint.
So there won't necessarily be RFPs.
I mean,
It will.
eventually, it will be a huge
But
RFP,
you said
yeah.
it's way down the line.
Eventually, way down the line, there's
Okay.
going to be a huge RFP.
Okay, I'm comfortable.
Yeah, and back to the clarification that Mr. Bill Dawson had, is that we've had some discussion with the administration and yourself that within our pool of folks we have in the administration, that if we jump into this and start moving forward, that we may feel like we need to add to that administration somebody that's is a utilities director. That's
yes.
just a comment, so. that's
Yeah,
not-
we're
not
working
our
on
discussion
that.
right
We're
now.
moving forward with that one, yeah. We definitely need the assistance.
Yes,
We definitely need the assistance.
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
so that'll be for the next meeting.
Okay.
We'll move on to agenda item number 10, Utilities Inc., contract update. Mr. Dawson,
Yeah,
Mr. Ken Dawson.
Yes, we have Rodell Parsons here, and I got to say, they've done a great job with something that I think was close to Councilman Dawson's heart, of getting this deal with Utility Inc. for the St. Jude development for that wastewater system, which just make complete sense from an environmental standpoint, also from just a service of the resident area standpoint. So I just want them to come up, and I think Trey's here to kind of give an update of where we are and how that's going.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. Thank you to the committee. We were asked to come in and help negotiate the asset purchase agreement between St. Jude for the St. Jude wastewater collection point owned by Utilities Inc. and Ascension Parish. You may recall, and I think Mr. Dawson's well aware, that that's a troubled wastewater collection point. And so the idea was that the parish would ultimately acquire that once an interconnect is built between that wastewater collection point and the Ascension Parish Jail collection point, and then on to the city of Donaldsonville. We have negotiated the agreement, and we're down to just a couple of points which remain unresolved. The legal issues, I believe, are resolved. We looked out for the parish's interest on those. The proposed purchase price of the facility is $127,000, which is made up of their cost in acquiring that system, as well as the upgrades and equipment. And then there's also the cost of the interconnect, which has been estimated as $132,172, and that was a number just given to me yesterday. So the remaining issues which are unresolved at this point are the cost of treatment after the interconnect is done, but before the purchase is completed. Right now, they're trying to push a per tap charge, and we've countered with a per 1,000-gallon charge, which is similar to what we would be paying to the city of Donaldsonville once this connect is done. And so that issue remains subject to negotiation. But really, that's the only issue that's remaining for negotiation, and that's based on a conference call we had last Friday. So everything else is close to done, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Mr. Dawson, Mr.
Thank
Ken Dawson, Bill Dawson.
Yeah.
Morning, Dawson.
The
Go
recent,
ahead, Bill.
the
I know that's
old
in your-
I'm an old grandfather.
This is directly into your home
So,
district.
yeah, and let me just for background to, as early as last week during the rainfall event that we had, people couldn't flush their toilets in St. Jude. So, I mean, it's a vitally important aspect for us in Ascension Parish. I think it's embarrassing that we have a place in Ascension Parish where when it rains hard, people can't use their sewer. So, and the issue is directly related to the fact that the treatment plant there is not capable of handling the inflows that it gets. I'll jump off the platform there and ask some questions. So, as far as the treatment cost, now, we have a treatment cost that we negotiated with the city of Dawsonville.
Right.
So now I'm not sure which,
$2.
so are you talking about what the treatment cost is gonna be for this interim period before the actual transfer is made, go ahead.
Well, it would have to be after the interconnect is done, because we're
Right.
paying $2, we have an agreement with the city of Donaldsonville now for $2.40 per 1,000 gallons.
Right.
Once the interconnect is complete, that would come online, and then we would need them to make us whole on that until the asset purchase is complete. And at that
Right.
point, our agreement with Donaldsonville would stand.
So it's this interim period when we're connected to the Dawsonville treatment plant, but before we actually take the customers.
Yes, sir.
Is that
Before the
correct?
asset purchase is closed, because this
Yeah.
will have to go through PSC approval, possibly an LDH approval. Now,
Right.
those approvals aren't expected to have any hiccups along the way, but you never know.
So, I mean, I would assume, I don't know where we are with that negotiation, but I would assume that we want to at least recover the money. Obviously, that's not a large amount and then we need some administrative costs associated with that. Are we on board there are we thinking alike?
We are thinking alike. We have proposed a premium on top of what we would have to pay the city of Donaldsonville. They've come back with an issue with that. They think they may have to go to the PSC for approval of a supplemental rate over that interim period. They think they'll lose money at that. I've asked them to go back and actually try to calculate volume to determine if they in fact would lose money on that number. And they have not returned back to me with that number yet. That's pending. And that's the one thing left open.
Okay.
And so we should be able to close this quickly once we get that.
Yeah,
that
and
issue
I appreciate the effort and especially with Ken, Tim, all you guys, but, you know, again, we have people that when it rains hard, they can't use their facilities.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the update. We'll move on to agenda item number 11, status on the SRF application. Mr. Ken Dawson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have a representative from GSA, Mr. David Einsel, here to kind of talk about that. Let me just give a little background on what we were doing with the ability to try to make sure that we at least had some effort to make sure that we secure the SRF funding of about $60 million. Initial thought process is that since GSA has had some experience with doing the same thing with the city of Donaldsonville, we moved forward with a smaller task initially to do some upgrades to some current systems that we have as part of the overall package of moving forward with the SRF funding. In that process, it would kind of allow us, in a sense, having the first phase to make these particular improvements while we move forward with the big plan. So I asked that Mr. Hines will come up and if he would just give us a status of where we are. But Mr. Dawson, we are looking at doing everything that we can to make sure that we keep that funding.
Thank you, David.
All right, good evening, committee members. Basically, all the required paperwork for the SRF has been submitted to DEQ. That included a general explanation letter, site certificate, boundary map, council resolution, and an overall schedule. That request that was made was for a categorical exclusion, like Mr. Dawson had mentioned, because all of the required work would be rehab work within existing facilities, so no additional environmental concerns would be present. So we requested a categorical exclusion. Right now, that's under review by DEQ. I attempted to get an update this morning, but wasn't able to do that prior to this meeting. Robert Thomas at DEQ is the one handling that. He did have some questions the past couple of weeks. I've answered all those questions, provided additional information to him. That categorical exclusion should be forthcoming within the next couple of weeks. So that's where we are with that. Once we receive the categorical exclusion, the schedule in terms of loan closure, typically what we've seen is another 2 to 3 months after we receive categorical exclusion where they could get everything scheduled to close on that loan. Be willing to answer any additional questions y'all have.
I got a quick question for you. That is the request unusual? I mean, not I mean the type of request, categorical
No,
exclusion
it's-
is not, I want to make that clear to everybody, it's
No.
not unusual.
No, it's very common. Anytime you have rehab work, rehabilitation work within existing servitudes or rights-of-ways, it's a common request that you have with DEQ. And this is just a way to facilitate the closing of the loan,
Right.
like he said.
You basically appealing to the verbiage,
Correct.
that the work you requesting falls under the statutes of the loan requirements.
Correct. And we've done this with Gonzales and Donaldsonville, and it's
Right.
been successful.
Mr. Sadler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, David. So, David, there's no reason to expect that our request for the categorical exclusion would be denied.
No, sir. None.
And
Just a matter of
Because the
timing.
obvious issue would be, we do not want to lose the SRF loan.
Correct. Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Bill Dawson.
So I'll ask the obvious, what the heck is that categorical exclusion?
That basically excludes you from having to go forth with the EID and a preliminary engineering report, which talks about all different alternatives to make sure that you minimize environmental impacts. And because of the fact that we are in existing servitudes and within existing rights-of-way, there really are no environmental impacts with these rehabs.
So I'm trying to understand, what are we telling them we're gonna do with the 60 million?
Okay, so the first 2 million, what we had basically outlined was to do rehab on several different stations. It was Country Ridge, Hope Villa, Hillaryville, and the Astroland areas. And in Astroland, it was gonna be a different, an SSES, a sanitary sewer evaluation survey, to see all the infiltration that was happening in that area and make recommendations. And then at Hillaryville, Hope Villa, and Country Ridge, there were various repairs that were identified in site visits with Carl Admiral and his staff, to include panel replacement, covers, filter upgrades because of lack of performance or in operation, just numerous items. I've got a list here if you.
Well, I mean, that's all right, that's 2 million, but we still 58 left.
The 58 million, the rest of it, in order to facilitate the closing of the loan, went forth with the modified P16 proposal. That doesn't mean that you have to continue on with that proposal. Numerous of discussions have been held with DEQ where you could modify this after this initial phase of 2 million and change the plan. All that has to be done is update that in the PER, which is the preliminary engineering report, and the EID, the environmental information document as well. So that can be changed. So it's not necessary generally to go forward with that exact project. You can make changes to the scope.
So what are we telling them, how are we telling them we'll pay back the money?
The financial application is what's going to follow with the categorical exclusion. We have responsibility to go forward with that financial application, which will detail all of that, and we'll have to come and talk with the parish about that, how they want to move forward with that. But
So do you have to do that before the loan is granted, or is that?
no, you do not.
But that's not what Dr. Brown told us.
This is the case with the categorical exclusion. The financial application can be turned in after, and I can attest to that for Gonzales and Donaldsonville.
Because you don't have to determine how much you need to take. The taking would not have to be the entire 60, it could be a portion thereof. And that's why we wanted to make sure that we did something to maintain the ability to get to 60, but also allows us to make the changes, as David just said, through what I just said about having an owner's rep to go through the processes of determining what it is we need to do.
So what's the schedule on this? When will we?
Close the loan?
Yeah.
If, once you receive the categorical exclusion, you'll go through the financial application, which takes maybe a couple weeks on our part to gather all the appropriate information, and then loan closure generally happens 2 to 3 months after that.
So what's our schedule? What's our schedule here for having the money? Let me ask that. So what's the date?
That I'd have to get an exact date from DEQ, when it would become available. But there's typically some lull after that loan closure process before you get the money.
So is it 10 years or
No,
10 months?
No, we're talking about a matter of a month or two after that.
No, I'm talking about from today. What are we looking at?
Like I said, 2 to 3 months for loan closure after receipt of the categorical exclusion, and then I'd estimate another month or so after that.
8 to 9 months total?
4 to 6.
4 to, yeah.
6, I would say.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And I would just like to clarify the fact that what we're doing is, we've had the 60 million and sitting in front of us, and what we're trying to do right now is secure the 60 million. We have a very ethical and viable option.
Right.
In you know, in the categorical exclusion to do that.
Right.
I think it's the background thought of pretty much everybody that's been on this committee and within the parish council is that the first place that we've got to really throw some effort in is the P16 area.
Right.
Whether that be phase 1 and then somewhere else be phase 2. But so, given the fact that if we move forward and we're trying to capture the sewer in East Ascension, that we'll readily have available a means to spend that money once we find out that we have finances to repay it, and that'll be done through our program development. But at this time, it's very clear that what we're doing is securing the money. At any time, we can decide not. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Right.
And you only pay back what is spent.
Yes. And I agree with what Mr. Bill Dawson said, is basically what Mr. Brown had said, but he basically said it in context of the initial agreements with the money.
Right.
And that's why we're looking for the exclusion. And so we should be able to move forward with that within a couple of months. I would not think that exclusion is going to take you that long to get.
No.
And then we just roll past all the putting the finances together and seeing what we got to do. So there's a lot of work for this committee in the future.
Yes.
Everybody just grease your hands up and get ready to work, because
Yes, sir.
that opportunity is going to be for us once more to do something with sewer and Ascension and take it, first place is take it out of Bayou Manchac and put it in the Mississippi River. Yes, Mr. Sadler.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. David, a follow-up question to what I asked earlier. So I'm not even try categorical. Well, I did exclusion. I was going to call it a CE. If we are approved on that and we actually get the money, we're selling them up front on the idea that we're going to do modified P16. And let's just say, playing the devil's advocate, we don't do that. We all know that we don't have the customers to, back to Bill's question, to pay back loans on something like that. But we do something that's different, or even, dare I say, radically different, as whatever's going to come forward, according to Mr. Dawson, and our owner's rep is happy with it and everything, and we do that. Is the DEQ going to buck, saying, wait, you said you're going to do modified P16, but you didn't?
No, sir. I've had several meetings with Jonathan McFarland and Robert Thomas, and there's no issue with that. It just has to be modified and presented in the PER and the EID.
Got to have some sort of a plan.
Correct.
I have a plan.
Once you present that in there, if we had already done that report, then you'd have to make a modification to it, but since it has not
That plan
been
was
done-
frankly quite well thought out before we went with the triple P. On the other hand, we didn't have the money to support the former as opposed to the latter. But, okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right.
No,
Appreciate it.
that's all I have for you. You got anything good? You good?
Thank you.
Ken, you got anything?
That's it, sir.
Yeah. I just also want to reflect back on the initial 2 million, that the tasks that were named in the initial 2 million are tasks that need to be done, okay?
Absolutely.
We are in the sewer business.
right.
We're not going to get out of it, and we seem to be getting more into it, so those tasks need to be done
Yes, sir.
at some point, whether they through that 2 million or
Another 2
somewhere
million.
budgeted somewhere down the line.
That's right.
So, with that being said, before we move on to agenda item number 12, I just got a couple things. You know, I just want to announce, and I know it's on AP TV, and I know its bulletins go out, but we have household hazardous materials collection Saturday, May 20th at Lamar Dixon from 9 to 1. We have a lot of people in the flooded areas that continue to clean out, things that didn't get to the road, didn't get picked up, stuff like that, so it continues to go. This is a great opportunity for people to get rid of some of the stuff, get, as a neighborhood, get together, and, it's only so much per household, so, I can't empty my chemical plant out over there, but, it's a good opportunity, and this has been a good thing. This little road show has been good for a long time, and it gives people opportunity to do the right thing with chemicals instead of the back ditch. So, another announcement, Chairman Cazzo of Finance asked to just, it's going to be coming out, but that just let all the viewers know that we have a special finance meeting that will be held on May 17th at 6:00 p.m. For the administration and for everybody to review the SSA findings and their recommendations that have came out, and they'll have something coming out on that. And last but not least, I want to wish everybody, all the mothers, a happy Mother's Day.
Okay,
Mr. Bill Dawson, you had anything?
I don't have anything, thank you.
I'm fine, sir.
With that, Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion adjourned by Mr. Sadler, second by Mr. Dawson, Bill Dawson. Any discussion, any opposition? We are adjourned.